Welcome to the McCombs Wellness Collective podcast, where we aim to improve overall health and wellness of the UT McCombs MBA community through promoting healthy habits and sharing personal wellness stories. Many stressors can emerge during an MBA, and we hope that this podcast will help you prioritize your health during your time at McCombs and onward through the rest of your life.
Normally when we start, basically we go through with kind of just with your story, how you got to McCombs, and anything you want to share from that side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. For the last 8 years, I was in the Navy, serving on 2 different ships, and then last 3 years, I was a ROTC instructor at the University of New Mexico. So, kind of a nice little cycle because ROTC is where I began. So I've just had 12 years total, if you include that, of just being in that kind of Navy mindset, but still kind of shaking some of those restrictions off and whatnot, but otherwise loving the life at McCombs and just loving everyone around here. Just adding more people to my support network,
Yeah, no, of course.
Yeah, where are you from and where'd you go to school?
Yeah, so originally from Fort Worth, Texas, but I didn't really want to go to college within Texas because I just didn't want high school part 2. So ended up taking the ROTC route with a scholarship to Georgia Tech. Which these days I don't think I could probably get into. Like, it just keeps getting harder and harder every year, so I'm lucky I got in when I did. And then from there went to a ship in San Diego, did a deployment to the Middle East, stopping a few places along the way and along the way back. Then went to a ship in Japan. That ship was the USS John S. McCain, and a couple months before I got there, they had gotten in a collision which claimed the lives of a couple of sailors. And so mental health was, at all-time low and, just a heavy focus while I was there. And then from there, I went to Albuquerque to be the instructor and then back to Austin.
Yeah, the McCain event is pretty crazy. I remember I had a classmate in power school saying he was on bucket brigade. They were getting buckets and just getting the water over the ship. Like, it just madness and just the worst case scenario that you never want to have in the Navy. And I can only imagine, like, afterwards, that's something hard to deal with.
Oh yeah. So for, if you're not aware of what happened, there's a, more or less if you really want to boil it down, there was a issue with the steering system and some miscommunication that, led to the USS McCain getting basically T-boned by a merchant ship. And, it was a space where a lot of people sleep that kind of got flooded instantly, which is how they lost about 7 folks. And then the USS Fitzgerald, not much longer, lost 10 folks on a different accident. But it was a really traumatizing event for most of the sailors because a lot of people think, oh well, you're in the military, you should be, you might expect people to kind of get harmed like that, but it's a different scenario. It's not a time, when you're just asleep in the middle of the night, that's not when you're expecting for anything to happen. But I had some sailors that I was responsible for that were the ones that had to close the hatch and seal off the space. You can only wait so long before the rest of the ship floods, so you've got to seal it off. And so that's, events that are absolutely traumatizing for some folks. And some folks didn't get over it. Some folks, still struggle with it. And it's just, it was a very eye-opening kind of thing to arrive to, meet some of those folks and see how different people dealt with it. You've got some of the toughest folks that, showed the most vulnerability, and you had some of the, more timid folks that actually were, heroes of the day. But
Do you think the Navy, what type of support did the Navy provide, and did you think it was helpful, or where did you see things that were being done well for the mental wellness after that and mental health, and what was done poorly?
Yeah, so it was kind of interesting. The way that they handled the McCain and the way they handled the Fitzgerald was a little bit different because they took some lessons learned from one and applied it to the other, and with mixed results. But one thing they definitely had therapists and counselors available, and the chaplains were pretty regularly around the ship to talk to folks. But one ship, the McCain, they kept most everyone around and basically just, gave them a one-time offer of like, hey, if you don't want to be on this ship, just say the word and we'll transfer you to another one, or we'll transfer you to another command. Whereas the Fitzgerald, they just said, like, we're just going to transfer everybody and, start fresh with a new crew. And that worked for some people and that didn't work for others in both scenarios. Because, everyone's different. Everyone handles trauma differently. And, it was interesting to kind of see that play out. But we definitely had our fair share of, lasting mental issues, and some that, didn't come to light for, months, if not years after the fact. Because, once again, you never really know how people are handling things inside.
And you were a leader of a division there, right? Not a division officer, not a department head, or...
Right, yeah, I was a second tour division officer is what they call it, but I had my division was the repair division, and so the folks that were kind of at the forefront of the casualty response, actually, spearheading the immediate response to when the ship was flooding.
So you were, I would imagine you interact with the guys quite a bit,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you're leading the division as a leader, just in general. What did you look out for, or how did you know, like, if someone was struggling, or maybe they weren't showing it? Did that you consider that, and how do you approach that whole aspect?
Yeah, that's the trick, isn't it? There's some folks that you can see visible signs, and you can make sure you kind of keep an eye on them, and when the chaplain is around, you make sure hey, point them out or something, or get them to go talk. Make sure that person gets a day off if they need to go to, talk to a therapist or something. But, some folks you don't see the signs. Maybe they are showing signs that you're not used to, or maybe they're just hiding it. But, I had one sailor who actually, he wasn't even there for the collision. He was just had his own set of demons in his closet, and, not to just suddenly turn dark, but, one morning he's late for work, and, it's pretty typical in the military that if someone's, not there at 7:00, you're like, all right, they're late, we'll fix that later. And, 8:00 comes around, they're still not there, and you're kind of shifting over from, all right, they're late to, okay, like, are they okay? Where are they? 9:00 still rolls around, and at that point you go to, send someone to look for them, make sure they're actually fine. And, sure enough, we get a text from them saying, oh, sorry, I'm late for work. I, tried to take my own life with pills. And it's just kind of like, just shocks you, right? And you kind of have to, like, you obviously you switch into, that, not to, you switch into everything you're trained for, to who to contact, who to reach out to, who to, go find the sailor, whatnot. And that was actually one of the times that, led to my decision to go ahead and get out of the Navy, is just how reflexive it was for me that, him and, one or two other sailors that I can think of, that the actions to, like, contact the doc, contact the, the folks that need to make sure that sailor's okay, whatnot. I did it all so reflexively without even realizing I was doing it, that it kind of made me step back, and, something that was just a routine drill for me was someone's life. And that was just, that freaked me out.
Yeah. How do you balance that? Because, the mission, they always preach, you got to be mission focused, but you also got to care about your people. But is there ever resentment of maybe someone's going through a hard time and they want to go talk to a counselor, but they have to stand duty, they have to do maintenance, they have a job to do? Do people within the division start resenting that person? Like, oh, well, this person is weak, but he's really just taking care of himself. How do you balance that and create a culture that enables people to go get help when they need to, but still get the mission done?
I think that's another delicate balance is, if someone like that is, clearly struggling, I don't think there's any resentment, or at least I didn't witness any. Where you find the resentment is what basically occurs is, they're the way that the Navy at least is kind of trying to take care of mental health. It's at some point it's almost a no questions asked. Like, if you're struggling, they'll get you help, but some folks ostensibly take that route, and if they're just not having the time they expected or something like that, they might feign some of those symptoms to kind of take that way out, and that's where a lot of the resentment comes from. If someone is legitimately in danger of their own life, then no one's going to question that. No one's going to resent them. I mean, maybe in the day of, if you've got 3 people to work on a 4-person job, you're just kind of like a little more stressed out, but no one's going to actually hold that against you if you're truly struggling. The issue is the people that see that as kind of a tap out card if they're just not enjoying the life. But that's it's one of those things that if someone is doing that, there's not. I mean, you want to err towards caution, right? You want if you'd rather have a false positive than a false negative, or maybe the other way around.
Definitely.
You'd rather save the person that doesn't need saving than let the other person go.
Yeah, and those people, they're probably going through their own thing. It's not a great. I don't agree with how they're acting out or doing it if they're faking it, but I'm sure they're struggling with their own things, and I completely agree. It's worth putting up with that to save the person that really needs it.
Yeah. And if it means I have to stay an extra hour or 2 later at work, then, so be it. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting balance, an interesting dynamic, and, persists to this day. But you never know what, not just in the Navy, obviously, in life, you never know what demons people have. Someone comes to work with a black eye, everyone's going to say, oh, what happened? But someone comes to work with, a little bit more silent than usual, with maybe some dark circles under their eyes. It's a lot more rare for people to say, all right, what's going on? Let's stop and figure out what's going on. People just kind of power through their day.
Yeah, and I don't think it's limited to the Navy at all.
No, not
all
at all.
These positions, we're trying to go to leadership positions in MBA. We're going to have people working under us, and I think it's the responsibility to set that culture of your health is number one.
Yeah,
and it's something you always have to be cognizant of.
Absolutely. Yeah. Invisible injuries hurt just as much as the visible ones. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And what I'm hearing throughout this conversation is there's a lot of courage and resiliency from your side of things. And just hearing how you kind of entered the situation there in Japan with, people that have seen some real trauma with death and kind of really crisis situations. How did you feel comfortable to be in a situation that you're leading these people? Like, what do you think prepared yourself to have that courage?
I'm trying to think, because on one hand, you're never prepared for it until you see it, right? I could easily, no questions asked, the person that I was within a year of being there is not the same person that I was before I got there. There's a lot of growth room for everybody. On my first ship, I dealt with a little bit of that. There's only so many ways you can kind of see things unfold. I had a coworker reach up high to grab a binder off of a shelf, and as you reach up, your sleeve kind of comes down a little bit, and we saw the lines on his arm where he had tried to cut himself, and there's only so many ways you can kind of react to that, unfortunately experiencing that kind of builds, a little bit more of a, I don't want to say like a fortitude, but, the more you see it, the more you're kind of like, I guess, calmer when you see it the next time. And so, yeah, it's not to say you have to, experience that stuff to be ready to handle it, but it definitely makes it a little bit more easy. But again, that's what I was saying, that it just freaked me out that I was so normalized to it that I was just like, I don't know how much more of this you can put up with.
Yeah, I totally get that. During all of that, obviously it's stuff that you can't really learn in a classroom, and like you said, you learn it on the job. During that, how did you balance it? Because I'm just putting myself in your shoes and having those kind of situations and trying to figure out how do you see that type of thing happen, and then being able to say, all right, I'm going to process this and be the leader, the best leader I can be, but also recognizing, hey, like that is a really tough thing. Like, was there an avenue or like a person that helped you get through all of that?
Oh, absolutely. I've been incredibly blessed with the fact that throughout my career, I've had a very strong support network of, people that I trust and mentors that were incredibly strong. And, I'm still in touch with most of them, to this day. People that either they had seen it before and, they had their ways of dealing with it, or, compartmentalizing it and then de-stressing it later. That's, pretty common tactic. But, I've always had just people that I could go to if I was really just struggling with it, and they would help me through. I know not everyone has that kind of support network, but I think luckily the Navy does a decent job of kind of putting you with those people. And a lot of them are folks that any other scenario I probably I maybe not would have been so close and so instant of friends with, but when you're kind of forced together in pressure like that, you create those lasting bonds. I don't know if you'd agree, Mike.
No, yeah, and but it's something now moving into the civilian world. I don't know if it's the same type of environment, and I'm wondering what people that I'm sure they go through struggles the rest of life. Every day there's challenges, and who will people turn to like outside? And as we go into different businesses, different sectors, how to approach that. I don't know if you've put any thought into that at all.
Oh, I definitely have, because I know that a lot of folks that when you don't live and breathe together with the same people you're working with, you may not get to know them as a person, because some people, they, not to say they change or put on a mask, but who they are at work may not be the person they are off work, and so you never know what people are dealing with or going through, and unless you can kind of force yourself to ask and create those bonds, you may let something slip away from you, but everyone's got their, not just people to cope with, but everyone's got their mechanisms and habits and whatnot, and so just as long as you're not interfering with those and they know what gets them through the day.
Yeah. And I think even right now we're lucky being in the NBA and seeing same people every day, a lot of events, a lot of coordination, group projects. But I can see them and go to a job. You just go home, go to work, go back, kind of sit with your thoughts yourself, and how damaging that can be if you don't establish good habits. And that's something I'm thinking about. Like, okay, what do I value? What do I want to do with my time? And what kind of people do I want to hang out with?
Well, and that's one of the things that I've been really appreciative of as far as the way McCombs has been specifically, is that I know a lot of the top schools across the country are very individual and competitive, but I've gotten a real sense of McCombs being a lot more kind of collaborative and team focused, which kind of allows for a lot of that growth.
Yeah, what have been your favorite experiences so far? We've been a semester and a half into McCombs, and just what if you're looking back at it, what have you enjoyed?
I think just for one, the regularity of the just social events have been pretty fantastic in a way that you can see people outside of their shell, and just kind of letting loose. Definitely lets you grow a lot closer with folks, and I'm fresh off of it, but the global connections, that's definitely a fantastic experience. Highly recommend it to anyone that can, just because you're stuck with 10 to 30 of your classmates across the world, and kind of bond in that way of whether it's shared stress of travel logistics and mediocre hotel breakfast, but otherwise, you really get to know people because you're around them the entire day. You see people from start to finish, which definitely lets you get a little bit more of a insight as to their life, and learn a little bit more as them as a person, and not just see kind of the walls up guarded version that they present at school.
Yeah.
No, totally. Yeah, like, obviously I was on the trip with you there in Italy, and I definitely agree with the fact that you do get an opportunity to get to know people a lot better. I was lucky enough to be your roommate throughout the time, and then we got to spend some together
Yeah, I was lucky
afterwards.
enough to never be woken up by you punching me in the face for my snoring. But
I was telling Marshall earlier that I would almost like start laughing because thinking about his reaction if I actually did that, and thinking about if I woke up to someone just wailing on me with a pillow.
yeah, and Matt did see that reaction.
Yeah.
You must have made some friends on the ship with your snoring.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at that point, I guess the noises of the ship either cover it up or, other people are snoring too. But
Sure, that's what they tell you.
Right? Yeah, exactly. One of our friends, oh man, we loved just to, one of my friends could tell a story that, he could make something up and he's just good enough. He could get people to believe it. And we managed to get the entire crew to believe that one of our coworkers had pretty bad night terrors and that none of us were sleeping well because we would just wake up to him screaming in the night. He never did, but the crew still thinks it.
You always got those games to play.
Oh, yeah.
What do you guys, this Italy trip, did you have any wellness takeaways on the trip to Italy, like how they do things that you think you want to implement?
Ooh, I'm trying to think.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I mean, I think part of it is that if you just are constantly surrounded by good, healthy food, none of them are ever.
Yeah.
Everyone seemed pretty happy, but because I don't know what we ate a ton of carbs, but I think I heard a couple of folks mention that despite eating all of the pasta, they never felt bloated or anything. So I don't know if just the wheat is different or what, but
Yeah.
What about the truffle hunt?
I mean, the dog didn't let me pet her, so I was still kind of sad about that.
So there's this guy, I guess Todd was telling me, this guy lives in the forest and they pretty much hunt truffles every day. And
Well, so his parents own a little property, with a little bit of woods next to it and a valley that I guess cultivates truffles very well. Yeah, and he's trying to convert that valley into a little farm that he's actually working with some other neighbors to set up a kind of a collective and kind of turn their town into a little agro-tourism town. Get a winery involved, and I think he mentioned apiary or beekeepers.
Yeah.
Kind of get the whole ordeal going. And he was telling us all about the just horticulture of truffles, which is really cool.
Yeah. No, more than anything else with that I think we all appreciate. There's just so much passion for it. I mean, it was something that his dad, he said his dad he's was retired and did the truffle stuff as a hobby. But it was really cool to see this guy kind of come in and just say like, hey, I have this vision, I have this passion for something that a lot of people in that region probably were more just like his dad, that were using it as a hobby, and him coming in and saying, I have this business idea. And I remember we walked by these like kind of old rundown stone building, and he's like, hey, this is where I'm going to put the tasting room, and this is my vision. So that was a really cool experience to see someone like that. You're just so happy, just so excited to share his life and his passion with all of us. That was very rejuvenating in many ways.
Yeah, and he was telling us about he was so excited to tell us about the girl he was seeing, because he was just so happy that he met someone that wanted to move out to the country with him and experience that life with him. But and that was just really adorable to watch him light up talking about her.
And that's what I like about like the Wellness Collective is, and I think this. Thanks for coming on the podcast here, because it's not just. I think people need to cover the mental health more. It's you can be super fit, you can eat super well, nutrition and all that, but ultimately, if your head's not right, you're not gonna have a happy life. Like this,
absolutely.
Finding passion, finding people you love, things you love to do, like that contributes to your wellness a bunch. And,
yeah. And if you're just working in a job that's making ends meet, then you've got to make the time to find the stuff that does make you happy. Get you through that one. I know I was joking with Todd that I don't know if you ever watched the show Blue Mountain State.
On the summer, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a good, funny, raunchy show, but there was one line that it hit a lot harder than it has any right to have hit. Alan Richardson's character Thad Castle is freaking out because to put it in a more family friendly way, and an adult toy that he had was missing, and it was making him go crazy. And he says, you don't mess with a person's rituals. I guess that kind of covers it. You don't mess with the things that get them through the day. And like, he said it a lot more vulgar, but still, just that kind of hits hard. That if someone has the little things they need to get them through, just let them do it. If they want to come in every morning with their 99% sugar Starbucks drink, dude, let them. Like, that's the stuff that gets them through, and so don't question it. Just that's what drives them. That's what gets them out of bed. But. And, they may not enjoy work, but that little thing puts a smile on their face, and so don't judge it.
Any follow-ups, Todd? Or
I think, 100%. I think kind of to the mental health side of things that I've talked about with you, it's like, I remember talking to my team, and the way I always thought about things is like, if I'm not taking care of myself, how am I going to take care of my team? And that's something that's super, super important. And I love the fact that you were able, like, just even this discussion to talk about some really difficult things that a lot of people, it's scary for people to talk about those mental health topics. And it's people like you that are, willing to go there, that it makes it a lot easier for people to speak up and say, hey, like, I've been having some tough times. Because it's all about creating that, like, psychological safety that says, hey, I know you've been in that position before too, and I want to share it as well. So it's like, to Mike's point, I think it's really important that, especially on a podcast like this, that we can have our fellow students and other people listen, to have a platform that talks about the mental health side. Like, we've had people that are, more along the lines talking about, like, the athletics side of things, including myself. But I remember talking to my CEO once, and he's a big Philadelphia Eagles fan, and I was talking about mental health, and I was saying, hey, like, what do you think the football players do every day? And he's like, I don't know, go to the gym. And I was like, yeah, they go to the gym, they work their body, but just as important as that is going into the mental gym. And whether it's going to therapy, talking to really good friends like it sounds like you have, and mentors, whether it's, having faith and going to church and having a relationship with God. Those are so important topics, and, things to do throughout the process of life. So yeah.
Well, and I think one thing for one, to think about wellness, half of it is, working on the badness, and, kind of working on that in your life. But I don't know if the Eagles is a great example, because I know for, tying my mental health to a sports team has not turned out great for, a Dallas fan, but,
How about the Cowboys?
Oh, it's our year. No. Yeah. But, no, you mentioned, going to therapy and whatnot, and that's something that a lot of people are still kind of getting used to being normalized. I mean, you get your annual physical and dental exam, or biannual, or whatever your pattern is, but a lot of people don't get that regular mental health checkup or schedule regular appointments. I'm guilty of that. I'm just terrible at scheduling my own medical appointments in general, but recently a good friend told me they would put a scorpion in my shoe if I didn't schedule my therapy appointment by the end of the month, and so I need to probably get on that. Because knowing Nino, he probably does have access to scorpions.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, thanks so much, Todd. Thank you so much, Marshall, for that insight and bringing the mental health subject to light, and I think it's really important, and I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, this has been great.
Yeah, thank you, Marshall. I really appreciate it. It's been a
thank
pleasure.
you all.
Thank you for listening to the McCombs Wellness Collective podcast, where we record weekly episodes during the semester to promote healthy habits and learn about personal wellness journeys. Stay well, my friends, and hook 'em horns.